Released by Konami in 1989 on the NES, Castlevania III Dracula's Curse would be a prequel to the original adventure. Directed by Hitoshi Akamatsu, the game would showcase the first duel of a Belmont against Dracula, whose events would later be adapted into an animated series. For story, the game features a warrior named Trevor C. Belmont, who is to be the first Belmont to defeat Dracula, as this story takes place after Lament of Innocence and before Curse of Darkness. Introduced are three new characters: Sypha Belnades, a witch disguised as a male monk, Grant Dynasty, a former pirate and current noble thief, and Alucard, the Dampier forgotten son of Dracula. During the game, Trevor can partner with any one of the three companions and switch places with them and use their unique abilities at any time. For gameplay, the game is an action platformer, returning to the original Castlevania's mechanics and conventions across 16 stages, each under a time limit. For combat, Trevor's main weapon is the whip but can use sub-weapons, Grant uses daggers, Sypha uses a variety of magic, and Alucard uses fireballs. Like Simon's Quest, the game is a little more open and replayable, as the path the player takes splits a few times, each one leading to different allies, levels, and bosses. Depending on the ally used to kill Dracula, slightly different endings can be earned as well. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. Set in the year 1476, Count Dracula has begun a reign of terror across Europe intent to destroy mankind. Overwhelmed, the populace has tried and failed to push his forces back, though the church suspected the forces to be led by a mysterious count named Dracula. With no other choice, the Belmont family, renowned but feared for their power to fight evil, has been summoned by the church to handle Dracula as a last resort to save Wallachia. Originally, the people of Wallachia exiled the Belmonts for their superhuman power, but fortunately, one 20-year-old Belmont named Trevor, sometimes called Ralph, comes to answer the call. Beginning his journey outside a ruined church, Trevor makes his way up the cathedral, as the skeletons and bats within are barely a warm-up for him. Moving up the cathedral, Trevor whips past the draconic skulls and hunchbacks that stand between him and the ruined village overrun by zombies now, as he defeats a giant skeleton knight in the graveyard. The path splits ahead between the Mad Forest or the Clock Tower, and unafraid of the challenge, Trevor tackles the spinning gears and swinging pendulums of the Clock Tower. Meddling Medusa heads do their best to knock him off balance, though atop the tower waits a deadly dagger-wielding demon. Defeating it, the demon suddenly turns back into a human, who introduces himself as Grant. Cursed into that form, he thanks Trevor for freeing him, as he was here for revenge for Dracula killing his family, and as thanks offers to come along. With his speed, jumping ability, and unmatched climbing skills, Trevor welcomes the new ally. Leaving the clock tower as it collapses behind him, Trevor moves down through the extended reach of the Mad Forest, wading through the sinking swamp and killing an ominous vampire battle along the way. As they slip past deadly acid dripping from the ceiling, they strike down menacing owls that eye them from the dark. At the end, among a garden of statues, a mighty Cyclops encroaches with his giant hammer, and once defeated, one of the statues that was still intact now comes back to life from its curse. A mysterious monk introducing himself as Sypha the Vampire Hunter is grateful and offers to follow Trevor as well. Sypha also reveals he was part of the special task force sent by the church to kill Dracula. Thinking a powerful magic user will be of use, Trevor welcomes the ally, though is surprised to see upon closer inspection that Sypha is actually a woman. Their travels bring them underground, and after descending down the dismal depths of the deadly dungeon, they are surprised to find a tomb where a suspicious coffin lies within. As it unseals, Trevor clashes with a fierce vampire that turns to bats and flings hellfire just like Dracula. However, when the fight is over, the man gets up and says he's been waiting for someone strong enough to actually stand a chance against Dracula, and smugly notes he was also holding back during the duel. He introduces himself as Alucard, the son between Dracula and a human woman, and states he does not agree with what his father is doing, but lacks the strength to stop him alone. Seeing an opportunity for another ally, Trevor agrees to work with him in this common cause. Crossing through a swamp and venturing into a spooky ghost ship that is en route to the vampire's keep, swashbuckling pirates still roam the galley alongside a deadly Medusa. A forsaken soul confronts the team, pitting them against a pair of mummies and yet another Cyclops before finally being put to rest. The ghost ship comes to dock right before a blood-red tower, and climbing it, gargoyles and spinning spike platforms fill the climb up with constant danger. Before long, the tower itself begins to collapse behind the team, and rushing to escape, they make it only to come face to face with an earth-shaking, boulder-throwing Frankenstein's creature. Climbing through the castle aqueducts now, fishmen jet towards the team while twin fire-spewing sea serpents guard the innards of the castle. Harpies carry in hunchbacks as the group makes their way up the castle proper, and a mob of mummies, cyclops, and giant gargoyle try and fail to put their group into the ground. The subterranean catacombs are even trickier, as while fighting a flying skeletal dragon, it breaks through the roof, causing the underground to flood. Time is now running out as Trevor hurries to escape the rising water and defeats the skeleton dragon just in time to avoid a watery grave. Finally entering the grounds proper, they find themselves in a soon-to-be familiar entrance hall, fighting their way through the haunting Castlevania. Defeating another of Frankenstein's creatures, the castle tries to swallow the team into its depths, but the menagerie of menacing monsters hardly slows the stalwart steps of the steely saviors. The face of death itself, the Grim Reaper, stops them cold in their pace, literally facing off against the group even though he is unable to cut them down. Beyond is their most creative foe yet, a doppelganger, morphing into perfect clones of the group and forcing them into an uncomfortable mirror match. With the descending clock tower next in their path, Dracula is not far behind, as Trevor outwhips mocking skeletons and carefully crosses the pendulums. An ornate red carpeted stairway greets them, and Trevor and crew approaches the Prince of Darkness sitting on his throne. With no words to say and their target in their sight, the group leaps into action as Dracula is quick to do the same. He leads with superhuman speed and sorcery, summoning forth hellfire from below. Trevor deftly counters the unholy magic, breaking down the vampire, who splits into 5 pieces that quickly reform into a 5-faced abomination that spews vile liquid across the room. Slaying the heads one at a time, Dracula is forced to assume his ascended form, a massive winged demon. Working in tandem with his castle to burn Trevor and team alive, Trevor's agility turns the tables to slowly but surely beat down the vampire with the aptly named Holy Whip Vampire Killer. As the game ends, the sun rises on a new day, as Trevor and friends watch from a distance as Castlevania crumbles and the denizens of the night are either subdued or dead. Going their separate ways, Grant, the acrobat and noble thief, has claimed vengeance for his dead family, and with that behind him decides to return to Wallachia to begin the rebuilding. Alucard, whose real name is Adrian Fahrenheit Tepes, reflects on destroying his father's wrathful form, and despite feeling it was right, still feels guilt for killing his father regardless. Trevor notes this quiet silence from his new friend and leaves him to his thoughts. Sypha, the vampire killer witch wielding the elements for the church, reflects how she has had a bad life but after traveling with Trevor has become more confident with herself. Leaning into his embrace, Trevor and Sypha would be married and sire a new lineage of Belmonts, now more magically awakened than before thanks to the Belnades' blood. As the 3 companions would be remembered as the legendary 3 warriors, the Belmont name would now be honored instead of shunned by the survivors of Wallachia. Even the church would be more agreeable to the Belmonts, though a curse of darkness would not be too far in their future. Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse has enjoyed the success of selling over 850,000 copies worldwide.